Hello, welcome to Quackalope, and I feel like I've been gone for a little while. I've been on the road for about 2 weeks, and I had a little bit of content prepped, so it doesn't feel like I was gone quite that long, but we were down at BGG Con, and then I spent a week in Kentucky at my grandparents' for Thanksgiving. We had a fantastic time. We got a chance to play a lot of these games sitting in front of me now, but now, what you're watching, it is time to do a board game haul video. So these are all the games that I brought back with me from Texas, from BGG. I drove these games over 1,600 miles to get them back here into the studio and share them with you, the community. Now, all of these games will be featured and highlighted on the show in some way over the next few months. So if you see one that stands out, either go check it out immediately, if it's just one that you kind of have to have and should be aware of, or stay connected here on the channel and look for the content when it comes out. Make sure to both comment and subscribe. Subscribe so you can see the content that we put out every single week. Gameplay, unboxings, reviews, a whole mix of content. We're always kind of trying to adjust and mix up the type of stuff that we're doing here on the channel. And make sure you comment. Let me know which games from this board game haul from BGG Con stand out to you the most. What would you like to see content on? What would you like to see more content on? And what type of content would you like to see? Is it gameplay? Is it a full review? Is it a how to play? If we're able to provide that, we'll certainly do our best to do so. And like always, I read and respond to every single comment. So what you say matters and influences this channel. But without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into this board game haul video. I have a lot of games in front of me, and BGG Con was a fantastic opportunity to both play games and network with people who I just kind of have seen online or in passing in the industry. So to everyone from BGG Con that I had a chance to meet, play games with, interact with, the publishers who kind of demoed their games for me there, thank you so much for your time and your patience as I sat and, played demo after demo and talked and wanted to just kind of spend time with you all. This community makes this industry special. It's why I want to be a part of it. And so I am entirely grateful. But let's go ahead and dive into this. The top game I have here is a Chris Gould game. It is Echidna Shuffle. Now this is one that a few people said that I should have already been familiar with, but I have to say, I passed it there at BGG Con, and it looks like a kid's game when you first approach it. It's got these beautiful little miniatures, a fantastic insert, and I thought to myself, I probably won't enjoy this game. But I wanted to sit down and demo as many games as I could, because that's what BGG Con was all about. And so I took a seat, and I started to play the most wonderful traffic jam I've ever played before. This is a fantastically designed game. This is a game that stole the holidays for my family. Everyone from my 6 and 8-year-old nieces and nephews all the way up to my 80-something-year-old grandfather were able to sit down and play this game together and enjoy it the same way across the board, and that's something you just don't see in game design. It is a pick up and deliver game reduced to fairly simple mechanics where you're trying to gather bugs with your echidnas, shuffle them around the board, running into other ones. It's a traffic jam, so you have to move them out of the way in order to get to where you need to go and drop them off at stumps. Now, there's 2 different maps, one less complicated, one more complicated, that vary up the game, but the core of the game is just that straightforward pick up and deliver. And man, is this a gem. We will be having content coming out as soon as possible on this fantastic game. Now, underneath this game here is going to be one that Jan was familiar with, Jan, the co-host of the show, and I wasn't as familiar with until I stopped by the Stronghold Games booth. Now, this is Fast Sloths. This is another pick me up and deliver me game. So you are playing as a sloth, and sloths are fairly slow and lazy, so you're pretty content in the tree that you're currently in, but there's some fantastic leaves scattered across the board that you'd like to get to, but you don't want to have to walk there or move there. On the board, there is a variety of animals, from elephants to ants to unicorns, which each have their own movement mechanics. You're taking cards from the board, playing those cards from your hand, and using those cards to help move those creatures around the board, at the same time picking up your sloth and moving your sloth as efficiently as you can across the terrain space. It is a pick-me-up and deliver game based around sort of efficiency, how you're using your cards, how you're collecting those cards, where your animals are going to be placed, and everyone's sort of disrupting the board at the same time. Now this is a 2 to 5 player game, 60 plus minutes, and age range is about 8 plus. Now this is a new one for Stronghold Games. It's coming into retail fairly soon, so keep an eye out for it. It's got some really interesting mechanics when it comes to a pick-me-up and deliver game. I'm going to set this down to the side. I'm going to steal Cutthroat Caverns off of the top here. Now this is by Smirk and Dagger Games, and you might already be familiar with Cutthroat Caverns. In fact, this is the new Anniversary Edition. This is one of their standout games historically that has existed in the franchise, and this version, I have to say, makes some really, really good and critical improvements to bring Cutthroat Caverns into the new gaming market that we have right now. It has 2-layer player boards for the characters that you're playing. It has new and improved artwork, which for me was one of the biggest issues I had with the original Cutthroat Caverns. It even has some revised additions when it comes to the rules, the gameplay, stuff they've learned over the years. Now, if you're not familiar with Cutthroat Caverns, the core concept of the game is that you are a band of heroes, and you're diving into this cavern, facing whatever nasties you come across. And at the same time, you're yourself. You want to be the hero. You want to be the greatest adventurer that's ever been, so you can't let your friends steal all the glory. That's the key of the game. We, as a band, have to work together, but to win the game, to be the best hero, might trip you, or steal a potion, or give you poison in order to ensure that I come out the victor. This is a game that celebrates being cruel to the people that are around the table, and I know that isn't for everyone, but if you're playing this with the right group, this can be an absolute riot. I'm excited to have the Anniversary Edition. I really like what they've done inside this box, updating it, bringing it up to kind of today's gaming environment, and I can't wait to get this to the table. Now this game plays 3 to 6, its ages about 14 up, and it has a variable time amount depending on the challenge and the number of players that you have, so it could play 40, 60, or 90 minutes. So I'm going to set this down to the side. Oh, and I'm going to steal from the top here a beautiful, sort of almost the opposite in some ways, a beautiful game called Rome by Ryan Lockett. This is Red Raven Games, and this is one that was kickstarted and just came into publication. This is a really interesting sort of pattern and tile placement game. You have a series of cards in front of you, and then you have your own crew, kind of your team. And each of them have a pattern of tiles that you're able to lay down on the center board. Now in the center board, you have map tiles that on the other side have wanderers, or people from the community, people from the villages that you're a part of that have become lost on their journey. There's something strange happening in this world, and everyone's just sort of started roaming around, hence the title. And you're leaving with your adventuring party to collect them, to bring them home, to bring them somewhere safe. You're doing that by playing tiles on those map tiles, exploring them, filling them up, and then taking those cards, depending on who has the most dominance on each one of those map tiles. The win condition is going to be victory points, but for me, this game really comes into the journey or the story or the visuals that you're playing. It's a really beautiful game. It has some simple but really interesting gameplay mechanics. This is an interesting narrative element in that story that he's been expanding and has some really good gameplay alongside of it. Now I'm going to set this one down to the side. Oh, and I guess we'll go ahead and go with these packages that I have in the middle. These are not a core game on themselves. These are all expansion packs for Sorcerer, which is a game I actually featured in my Gen Con haul video, and a game that we're going to bring some gameplay to the channel here really soon. These are character, lineage, and domain expansion packs, and one of the really unique, interesting things about this deck construction game is that you can source from so many different histories and creatures and domains and types of magic or types of power that all lead to a very authentic feeling sorcerer. And so these expansion packs for me really go to improve and develop on what I already love about that core game. The gameplay is really good if you like deck construction games, but the thing that has always brought me back to it is the amount of narrative or the amount of story I feel like I can get just out of these character packs. And so here I have a whole mix that allow me to play different characters, allow me to come from different locations, and give me different lineages or different sources of magic that I'm using. I'm excited to mix these in and see what they can bring to the game as a whole. I'll set these down. and over to the side. And sticking with the White Wizard Games theme, who developed and produced Sorcerer, I got a quick look and a preview copy of Kapow. Kapow is a game they're going to be bringing to our marketplace here very soon, so keep your eyes out. This is a dice construction game. This is a game where you're playing as superheroes, rolling dice, assigning those dice to different abilities and powers, and trying to take down the villain. One of the really cool things about this game, though, is that you're actually, in the process of playing it, able to upgrade and construct the different dice that you're playing with. So there's different faces that you can snap on and off, change how they flow, decide how you want your dice to be or how you want them to roll. It's got some really interesting gameplay, some fantastic artwork. For me, it is a more advanced version of something like Dice Thrones, right? So if you like those dice rolling, really punchy style games, this is one you're going to want to be paying really close attention to. I know White Wizard Games has some really good plans and ideas moving forward, which I'll be bringing to the channel down the road, but for now, I just want to introduce you to Kapow and get it on your radar. Set this down and to the side, just like I've been doing with everything, and let's bring over Aeon's End and all the expansion packs. So this is Aeon's End, the New Age, Shattered Dreams, Into the Wilds, and the Ancients. Now this is a cooperative deck construction game where your deck is never shuffled, and you're working as these powerful beings to hold back the forces of evil. The really unique thing about this deck construction game is cooperatively you're working through a narrative. So inside this box there are packages and villains and bosses that I'm not allowed to open or view yet. It sort of has some legacy elements in a way to it. You're going through this narrative, spending your resources, playing your cards, and revealing new threats and new storylines along the way. This game can play 1 to 4, it's 60 minutes long, ages 14 plus, a little bit more of a heavy advanced rule set when it comes to like learning and picking up the game. And I know the original Aeon's End got a lot of praise in terms of its solo mode, its solo campaign. This one also, even though it's cooperative, this one also features the ability to do a full solo run through of it. I'm planning on dipping into that as well as playing some cooperative games as well. So, Aeon's End, if you like deck construction, if you like cooperative games, if you like something that is narrative driven, that allows you to adventure into the wilderness, keep an eye on this one. I'm going to set this to the side, hopefully, without spilling a bunch of expansion packs everywhere. And can I just say, it is a wonderful world. This is a game that I actually got to demo there at Lucky Duck Games' booth at BGG Con. This is one that stood out to me as something that I wanted to bring to the channel. A few of the things that make it really interesting. It's a 1 to 5 player game, plays in a tight 45 minutes. Ages 14 plus, there's a little bit of skill when it comes to how your cards and how your resources stack together. But this is a drafting and production game. So at the start of every round, you're going to have a hand of cards. You're going to draft and pass, planning what you want to do with the rest of your game, the rest of your turn. After that, you're going to go through a production phase. Each of your cards could be a factory, a resource, some part of this wonderful city that you're building. And each one has some sort of production tied to it, whether that's victory points or different types of resources, cubes that you're playing that you're able to spend and build other cards with. And so this comes into a really interesting efficiency, drafting, and production game, where every turn I'm trying to decide what cards do I want to build, how can I build them, how can I be as efficient as possible in the process of building those cards, and how does all of that chain together to make a sprawling civilization, but not only that, a high-scoring victory point-based game or win. For me, this was a really fulfilling, efficiency-based game. I've had a good time playing it, and I like that it plays under an hour. I really think this gives you a lot for the time that it plays in. So, it's a wonderful world, Lucky Duck Games, keep an eye out for it. Next, let's bring it over here to Robinson Crusoe, the expansion for the core game Robinson Crusoe by Portal Games. Now, this is an expansion that I've wanted to get my hands on for some time. I have the core game of Robinson Crusoe. I haven't dived into it as much as I would have liked, but they had it down there and I was able to go ahead and pick it up, and it's one that I've been keeping an eye out for a really long time. Now, I haven't dove into that core game as much as I would like yet, but it is critically acclaimed for the solo playing capacity it has. Now, this is a adventure, exploration, and survival game based off of the novel Robinson Crusoe, where you are exploring the island and doing your best to survive, overcome, and win. There's various different stories you're able to explore, and this brings a few more of those narratives, a few more solo stories into the game table, giving you a chance to kind of expand on a game that you already really like. If you haven't checked out Robinson Crusoe yet, but you like playing solo, you like narrative-driven stories, and you like games that don't pull their punches, this one is known to be an absolute ruthless challenge. So, this is one you might want to take a closer look at. I'm planning on having some solo gameplay of Robinson Crusoe here soon, so keep your eyes out. It's a matter of learning the game well enough that I can play it without being a complete fool on camera. I'll still be a fool, I just don't want to be a complete one. So, Robinson Crusoe by Portal Games. I'm going to set this down to the side, and I'm going to go ahead and slide over Terrors of London. Now, this is a game that I have gameplay of here on the channel. Terrors of London is a deck-building game where you are battling back and forth, trying to destroy your opponent. You're each playing some sort of terror, creature, being down in London, who is using his hoard and his power to destroy the other player. It is a head-to-head deck-building combat game. The cool thing that Terrors of London does is it has a way that your decks and your cards actually combine into what are called hordes. And so those hordes work together as a unit, giving you more powerful attacks, unlocking abilities, making things even more chaotic and crazy as the game state increases. Now, these are not the actual core game. These are the expansions, the upgrades that I didn't have in the core game. So these are going to go into my main box and go ahead and finish out or complete my collection as it stands up to this point. Now, Terrors of London is by Colossal Games. If you're interested, if the slight description of that game sounded cool, swing over, check out the gameplay video here on the channel, and then stop by Colossal and see what else they're offering. Now, I have two more games to cover here. I think I'm going to start with Paranormal Detectives. Still in shrink. This is one that I need to open with my core game group. This is by Lucky Duck Games as well. This is one of the first games that I actually got to demo there at BGG Con. And this, for me, is the best version of Clue I've ever played. Now, there is a game called Unwelcome Guests, which is a new IP. It is a deep and rich version of Clue. And I would say it is advanced and just as rewarding, but in a different way. For me, Paranormal Detectives does something in this genre that I really, really enjoy. It makes one of you the conductor, the poltergeist, the person who has been killed. And you are doing everything you can to let the community of detectives know exactly how you died. It leaves things open-ended. It allows people to ask questions and creates a really, really cool game environment. If you're playing with the right group, a group that's willing to infer, interact, and think through the things they're asking. In this box, you're going to find some things like a string. You're going to find a board that has different symbols and items, hot and cold meters, sort of a Ouija board-like letter system, a bunch of different ways that the poltergeist can communicate with you without actually speaking or writing. And your job as a detective is to venture into the unknown, to ask them to describe what killed them using, for instance, a string, or acting, pantomiming it for 30 seconds or 5 seconds, using a hot-cold meter to let you know what sort of environment they might have died in. Paranormal Detectives, Lucky Duck Games. If you like interactive games, if you like games that get better and better with the more people that you play it with, this is one that you should keep your eye on. It plays 2 to 6 in about 45 minutes, ages 12 up. So I'm going to slide this down to the side. And the last game I have here, other than a variety of little ducks, is going to be Ishtar by Yellow. And first off, I just have to say, one of the initial things that drew me to this game, I really like this box presence. I love this kind of flowering tree here in the center. I like the sketchy sort of design. I like the browns and the grays. I think it really stands out in a beautiful way. But, along with that, this game has some really good table presence. You are trying to bring fertile life to the deserts of Babylon. Springs have sprung forth that you are able to use the water from, an ever-flowing presence, and you're able to take that water and expand your garden in whatever way you like. It is a tile drafting and then tile placement game where you are covering this desert landscape in a rich, thick, flowering garden. Along with that, you're using the gems and the resources that you get from the landscape to purchase trees, plant those trees, create barriers, and expand your domain. I have played this game a few times. I got a chance to learn and demo it there at BGG Con. This is one that I had to pick up and bring home. I really like the table presence. I really, really love this art style and this artwork. And the game has some very interesting mechanics. If you like tile drafting and tile placement, if you like solving that puzzle of how things can fit in as efficiently as possible to get you the most victory points that you can possibly get, this is one that I think you'd probably enjoy taking a closer look at. Now, this plays 2 to 4, ages 14 plus, and plays in about 45 minutes as well. And that is the haul. That is everything that I got and brought home with me from BGG Con. I had a fantastic time there, and so I just want to say to all the fans, the community, the publishers that I was able to interact with, thank you for being who you are and doing what you do. BGG was a chance for me to put a camera down and just enjoy spending time with you and the community that I'm glad I'm a part of. If you've made it to this point in the video and you've survived through that sappy thank you note, please remember to subscribe. Leave a comment letting me know what sort of coverage you'd like to see on these games that I just highlighted, and let me know what you're looking forward to coming down the road. Like I said before, we read and respond to every single comment, so what you say really does matter to this channel. Whatever you do, though, remember to do the important thing. Get out and play some games. We'll see you next time. Thank you.